Hi, my name is Louise for Women and Drones, the Africa chapter. I want to welcome you today to the first in a series of Zoom chats with trailblazing women in the African drone industry. And in particular, I'll be asking them about their role in the industry, how they got into it, and equally how they see women in Africa playing a role in the growth of the industry here. I'm delighted to welcome Kim James as the first person on these Zoom chats. Hello, Kim.
Hi, Louise. So good to be on. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Cool. It's nice to have you here. Yeah. I think I've got a bunch of questions for you, of course. But really the purpose, as I said there, is just to sort of introduce yourself and just sort of explain how you got into the industry, why, and all sorts of things like that. But I'm going to have to start with the first one, of course, which is, who are you and what do you do?
Absolutely. So I am the director of UAV Aerial Works. We are a South African civil aviation certified drone operator. And so our company's name is UAV Aerial Works. We also have a brand called Drone Guards, and that is where we do drone security. And my specific role in the company is I'm the regulatory post holder for safety and security. And yeah, I mean, I kind of wear many hats because the industry is still new, and we turn our hand to whatever we need to in the organization. But essentially my key responsibility is the safety and security, and I'm kind of also the kind of marketing or face to the organization.
Okay. Well, that's cool. I mean, because it's interesting. I mean, you've come from a completely different industry. I mean, what attracted you to drones?
Good question. So I have a completely different background to most people in this industry. I spent over 20 years in the investment banking industry, kind of in various countries in the world, and had a very, very privileged and fortunate kind of career journey. And when I came back to South Africa a few years ago, I kind of started doing HR in South Africa as well, and saw an opportunity to join a company that had just applied or was in the process of applying for their ROC, which is the operator certificate. And what I realized was the commonality there between what my skill set was and what was required in such an industry was really that regulatory, structured control and governance piece. And so much of it is, I mean, let's say paperwork, because a lot of it's hopefully and moving online and getting digitized. But it's that aviation industry control and governance and regulatory framework that I was used to operating in. I was used to operating with highly intelligent, qualified, educated people. And, I've always lived by the motto of surround yourself with people who are cleverer than you. And, I saw all this going on, and I was like, I want in. I think it's a really sexy industry, and aviation is great. And the people in the organization that I saw doing what they were doing are manned pilots as well. And one of our fellow directors is ex-military. And when they started talking aviation, I was just, kind of hanging off their lips going, I can help you, and I can benefit from a change of career, but also I'm not going to be completely out of my depth because I'm used to working in an environment that is so structured. So that's what attracted me. Okay. And I guess that's what keeps me attracted to it, because it's such a new industry and I'm new to the industry. So I feel like I'm drinking out of a fire hose every day. It's getting better. I know a lot more now than I did, kind of 4 years ago, or what have you. But it's an attractive industry. You know how they say, how do you know someone's a pilot? Because they'll tell you. Yeah. And that's because it's cool. It's a cool industry to be in. So I've learned a lot. I'm still learning every day, but I'm also good at what I'm required to do. And therefore it's that kind of, every day you learn something new, but also you're doing something well. And that loop actually works for me. So
Yeah.
that's how I got into it. And that's partly why I'm still in it.
Okay. I mean, do you also, I mean, it's also the people, isn't it? I mean, there's something fascinating. Everybody's got this particular goal and a drive. And I find, you know, you've just finished the conference. We were chatting off camera before we hit the record button. And I mean, it's amazing, this vibe or buzz, if you want to pun. But,
Yes.
you know, it's just incredible. It's a fascinating industry.
Well, and you say that that is absolutely true. So this conference that I actually spoke at, and I had the privilege of doing that for a second year running, and I know you spoke at last year's one, and this was the first one that was in person after lockdown. So it was literally the first conference in a year that I've spoken at in person. And the people you meet are so, yes, well qualified, experienced, but from such different levels or segments of the industry. So, for example, you know, aircraft engineers who are now designing their own drone, and so you know, they aren't drone pilots, they are engineers. Then we had another speaker who's a drone insurance specialist. He knows a lot about drones, but he's not a drone pilot, and he hasn't grown up with drones. He grew up in insurance. You know, then you have people from government, from the client perspective, engineers, students that are learning the trade and that are deciding on which part of the drone industry they're going to, you know, kind of forge their career in. People from the security industry, and so it's every day is different. Every day is different, and every person you speak to comes at this industry from a different, you know, a kind of a different point of view. And that's, I think, what makes it so dynamic.
Absolutely, I think you've nailed it there. It's fascinating how people have just been captured from all walks of life about what, and seen the value of these things in professional applications. I mean, we all know about the fun part, but the application in a business environment or an industrial environment it's amazing how people are thinking out the box. Yes. Preferably with something that flies out the box, you know, and sort of just goes and does what you want them to do.
Absolutely, yeah. and I think the conclusion that we came to a while ago already, but that we really make sure people understand, is the drone itself is not the industry. And being licensed, and for example, having, you know, the commercial certification to operate in this industry is not the winner. That's the qualifier. That gets you to the starting line. Okay, so now we're all here with our certifications and our drone. And, you know, that's simplifying it massively. But what are you doing to solve real problems? And it isn't a case of saying, okay, well, I'm here with my drone. What problems can I solve? You know, so because some problems aren't going to be solved by drones. Many are, of course, and that's why we're all here. But you know, it's really around what's your competitive advantage, and how are you going to win in this game, and solve real problems in a smart way. And it isn't about the drone; it's about the data, and it's about how you access that market. You know, do you have access already? And a lot of these people that were at the conference and that we speak to every day are specialists at what they do. They want to add the drone component to make them even more competitive, and you know, stay competitive. So yeah, every day is different, and that's what's so great about this industry.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yes, I think it's important to say what attracts you, but what keeps you, because sometimes you can be attracted to something and then you get there and you go, oh, but there is something that consistently every day there's a new application, there's a new consideration, or there's a new part of an industry that's suddenly saying, hey, this is really cool, this is going to help us do something. And it's yeah, it's intoxicating, actually.
I think it is. Yeah, no, absolutely. It is that loop, as I said. So I think the other thing also that keeps me in this industry is the fact that the more you learn, we don't know what we don't know when we start out in this industry. You think, oh, well, I'll apply for a drone license and, I'll learn to fly and we start a business and, my business partners are really, really clever at business and we'll do well. We'll get there. And then you learn. You don't know what you don't know, and you really learn. And sometimes you learn the hard way. And so, it really is around, you do a project and you suddenly realize, wow, it's the software that's going to make this project. Then the next project is like, we really need better equipment. The client wants this, we really need to manage expectations because actually drones can't solve everything. And people watch too many movies, Louise, we know this already. And specifically in our security business, we know people watch Tom Cruise and The Oblivion and, all these cool movies. And it's like, number one, let's not let regulations get in the way, but, regulations kind of do fall behind the technological advancement. We know that. But also, we can't just shoot people with drones, from 100 meters. That's just not going to happen. And, even if it can physically be done, we don't necessarily want to do that. So, there's a lot of expectation management. And yes, the more you learn, the more you can share. And I do share a lot, and I don't know why. I just feel like, because this is such a competitive industry, and also it's got a very high barrier to entry, there is a lot of kind of, well, it's my, like, I've learned this and I'm not going to share. And I believe the part of me, and I think our company culture is it's a free market, share. And the more people know about what you're doing, and the more people know about the industry and about the trade secrets of how to navigate the regulations. And I mean, it's not trade secrets, but you got to figure it out, right? The better it is for the industry, because the more people know about it, the bigger the industry is going to become. And the bigger, we need to basically grow the cake so that everyone's slice is bigger. That's essentially, and more people can have a slice. Yeah. So I share a lot, and the more you share, the more people seek you out for it. And so I get immense personal satisfaction from working in this industry, I have to say.
Yeah. No, yes, I agree. It is wonderful, the feedback you can get. And I also think, you hit a really important point there, is that, we are pioneering people in the like I said at the beginning, the trailblazing. And I think we also, we are ambassadors for this industry. And you do need to share, and you've got to equally share, like, you posted the other day about drones being incorrectly blamed for an accident. And some of that has got to come out of us educating and raising awareness about, this is what drones are, this is what they are in the hands of the professional. Let's help hobbyists get the right, instead of shouting at hobbyists or shouting at people, let's try and raise awareness about how to use these things properly, safely, and that drones are not the bad guys, because it is absolutely, it's just irritating that they default, oh, it must have been a drone.
Absolutely correct. Yeah. Education is the key, for sure. And there is still a very big part of it that is either the expectation that drones are a toy, or they kill people from a military perspective. There's nothing in between. Sometimes when you speak to people and they're like, oh, well, I could just go down to my supermarket and go buy a toy drone. You're like, yeah, you can, but you can also kill someone with a drone. Or you can always, by inadvertently flying into controlled airspace, ground heavies at an airport and close airspace. Or drones don't always kill people. Drones are also used for humanitarian uses. And we had a good presenter yesterday talking about the humanitarian use and the fact that, we need to change that perception of drones. Drones are war makers, not aiders. Yes. So yes, a lot of education, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I know you are trying to do that too, through your book and what have you. So yeah, we have a long way to go, but in a cutting edge industry, that's exciting to do as well.
yes, absolutely. Well, it's always nice sharing good news for starters. And I mean, it's such a positive tool that it's good. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, just curious, is there anybody that maybe inspired you at the beginning, or has since inspired you? You know, in terms of, you know, this. You know, like women can say in the manned aviation, like Amelia Earhart, you know, going right back, and some of these ladies from the Second World War, and obviously more recent people. But is there someone that has inspired you in particular, do you think, in the drone industry?
Let me think about it. So, look, obviously, my business partners inspire me in terms of their knowledge of aviation. And, you know, at some point I thought, okay, well, you know, I'm going to do my PPL. And I'm like, you know, mathematics is not my favorite thing in the world. And, you know, how that's not necessary. So, but their kind of knowledge of the industry, and then and their true aviator professionalism. So that's what inspired me around the fact that the drone industry isn't about a person with a drone under their arm.
Hmm.
And you know, we don't pretend to be what we aren't as a drone operator, but I do believe that it is the aviation industry because we share airspace with manned aircraft.
Yes.
So with all the best will in the world, if you're out on a piece of land and you're flying your drone and there is no risk to anything, then you're a drone hobbyist, or you are a drone operator, and that's fine. If you are, like we do often, operate, or if you are an operator that operates in controlled airspace, in restricted airspace, yes, there's the legislation you need to navigate, but there's also the professionalism you need to have. And so when our pilot in command goes and does some, you know, very complicated jobs right next to an international airport where you're on the radio and some really important air traffic controller tells you to stand by and wait, and you wait, you know, and then they fire instructions at you, and suddenly, you know, I think most drone pilots will probably be very scared of that, you know, or intimidated. So the professionalism as aviators, I think in our own company, inspired me, number one.
Okay.
And I think, you know, I mean, you do, Louise, you know, in terms of, I mean, you started, you know, you wrote a book, you were, you know, I think very early on, you did your RPL, you're an instructor, a drone pilot instructor. So you inspire me. I think there are other people, and, you know, this is, I guess, kind of jumping ahead, but I know we're probably going to speak about certain women that that do various or perform various roles in the industry. But you know, there's a DRE, who a designated RPAS examiner, who works with the training academy that we're not affiliated to officially, but you know, we do all our drone training through them. And she, you know, she's a commercial helicopter pilot, and she's still flying helicopters commercially, but she's also passionate about drones, and she lectures, she does all the theory training on drones, and I just think, wow, you know, she's super qualified and she's super passionate about the industry. And then there are people like one of my fellow EXCO members on Kawasa, who just is a super knowledgeable. She's a professional in the industry. She's a drone, you know, kind of consultant, managing corporate ROCs, knows the regulations, and is actually very instrumental in driving South African drone regulations from a, you know, suggestions on the open category or the categorization model. She sits on international working groups. She also presented at this conference. So there are a number of women who inspire me, or people who inspire me in this industry from a knowledge perspective, and they all come at it from different, you know, different kind of expertise levels or what have you. And so, yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, but I think I found my groove, and you know, I network, and I chat regularly with all of them, as I do with you. And sharing of information is key, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's it is a mix of inspiration, isn't it? But it is lovely that there are some key characters out there that you just think, wow, it's amazing what they've achieved. And I will be interviewing some of those people that you've just mentioned there. I know who you're referring to, so I won't give the names away yet, because I think it's important to keep a bit of mystery.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, just to add, I mean, these women that I've mentioned are, at the top of the game. I think there are also some women who inspire me from their position of tenacity, entering the industry from a position of self-funding, perseverance,
Yes.
and who I'm talking about. There are a number of people, young women who really want to get into the industry, and they're in the industry, but through hard, I mean, look, we all work hard, and we're all forging our way, but these women have done it from a position of, it's tougher potentially, and self-funding, and really finding their way through training and regulations, and again funding. I'll say it again because it's a key part, but the perseverance, and these are the women we need to bring up, because they are going to be trailblazers in their own right, for sure, if they aren't already.
No, absolutely, I agree. It's fascinating what some women have gone through to get to where they are today. I love it, because in some ways it's sad for me that often unmanned is discussed like it's completely separate from manned aviation, and yet some of the struggles women are going through in unmanned is no different to some of the struggles that women went through in, I mean, both sectors of the aviation industry have a low percentage of women, and they all go through their own struggles to get where they are. I just think it's interesting that there are parallels between, we might be flying different types of aircraft or doing different types of training, but there's some amazing women on both sides of manned or unmanned that should be up there, as this is where you can, to tell children growing up today, girls, this is where you can go. And I think that's really important to really have these people.
Absolutely.
So just hear your selection of inspiration. A little bit embarrassed by one of them, but that's very kind.
Screw Louise, I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it.
Moving on quickly.
Yes.
Well, just you sort of touched on it earlier. What sort of roles do you see? I mean, you've made it already clear that the drone is, being the pilot is not the be all and end all. What roles, you've kind of hinted again already, but just to qualify, what sort of roles have you seen women in already? And I think perhaps going forward, what opportunities do you think women and girls should be thinking about in this industry, rather than just focusing on flying this toy, which can be the wrong thing to focus on? What do you think?
Absolutely. Okay, so look, the drone pilot, as you quite rightly mentioned, is the most obvious, and those are the jobs you see advertised. There are some cadet programs in South Africa. I think you are aware of one wonderfully inspiring young woman who is a air traffic controller, and she wants to forge a career in drones, and she's done her pilot's license, and I think she's going to start working in the industry now, and how amazing, and she's just super bright and wonderfully inspiring. But if you think about the ecosystem of the drone world, it potentially starts with, yes, you fly the drone, but also how do you learn to fly the drone? Okay, so you can become an instructor. And of course, you would learn to fly the drone first, and then become an instructor, and then potentially become an examiner. I'm also very inspired by a very, influential and very successful female who owns an aviation training organization. And I know the drone part, the RPAS training part, is only one part of what she does, but she is amazingly qualified, and she does a lot of work in human factors and crew resource management, and she's amazing. So, you know, there's the training part. Then, of course, you know, the commercial operation has 7 posts that are regulatorily required. So quality management is quality management in many industries, right? So internal audit, etc., that requires certain skills. And, you know, that, I mean, you know, potentially might not be a career, but in a large operator, that could absolutely be a job. Safety management, you know, I mean, people do master's degrees in safety management in aviation. So even someone running a safety management system in you know, a fairly sized operator, you know, could become a full-time job with a large fleet and a large complement of drone crew. So, you know, that kind of internal control and governance part is potentially a role. There, and I've literally just been connected to this person who is, and I have to get this right because I probably won't, and so I'm just going to flick to this part if I can find her. Where is it now? I did put this in here, but anyway, she is a co-founder of a company that does optoelectronics, which is essentially LiDAR equipment for drones. And she's a trailblazer. And, you know, they supply, I'm not joking, okay, they supply this equipment to the Googles and the Amazons of the world.
Wow.
And they are based very near our offices in South Africa. And, you know, she's got a finance background and an MBA. So she's a business individual, and she's a co-founder of this company that's manufacturing and supplying components that are key to drone safety and the whole RPAS system. And they are supplying this to the likes of Google and Amazon, who, as we know, have massive drone programs that they are launching and what have you. So that's amazing, okay? Yeah. And then, of course, the whole design of the aircraft. So mechanical engineering and then aeronautical engineering. In fact, we've recently met a young gentleman who's a mechanical engineer who's doing a master's in aeronautical engineering and is really interested in you know, potentially designing and building a fixed wing aircraft. And I specifically spoke to him because he actually joined us at the conference that we were at for the last 2 days. And I said to him, right, tell me now, how many women in your master's program that are doing what you do? And you know what? It's 50%.
Fantastic. Wow.
So I'm like, we need to meet these women because maybe they're studying this, but maybe they're studying it for manned aviation, I don't know, but we could use them in our industry, in the ecosystem. So if they know that that is actually a path, we need to bring them on board. And then, of course, not lastly, because I mean it's vast, two things. The maintenance part is huge. And in fact, our remote maintenance technician organization that we use to, you know, where we have our drones repaired, etc., they have a lovely young woman who's part of their team who is an instrument technician, a qualified instrument technician. So she would have done an apprenticeship and qualified as an instrument technician doing something. And now she's a drone technician, you know, working for a very key maintenance organization, remote maintenance organization, you know, up in Gauteng, where we operate. And I definitely want to introduce you to her because she is just lovely. And there she is, you know, a rose amongst the thorns. Yeah, and so, you know, just a vast you know, a range of skills required and jobs that are available. And of course, lastly, the software part. So, you know, if people haven't thought yet around the, you know, machine learning and what we're doing in terms of moving towards artificial intelligence and the software engineering part of it, then we're missing a big part of it, because that's where drone data is going to be feeding into is machine learning. And so, you know, software engineering, even from just programming, you know, and being part of that whole flight controller, you know, let's tell drones what to do when we want them to do it. And then also, you know, understanding what that drone data is used for, and where we're going in terms of artificial intelligence. So I've probably skipped key jobs that are going to be part of our ecosystem, but I hope I've mentioned some, and we've got real examples of those in our midst.
Yeah, no, I think that's a lovely spread that you've covered there, and I think the fact that you can give examples is fantastic as well, because I mean there are, I mean it really is, the sky's the limit in terms of how you could be involved. I mean, sort of slightly off track. A long time ago, I went to Farnborough Air Show, and of course the aircraft doing their displays and on the ground and the static displays are what catches your eye. But you go into the exhibition hall, and there's the person that sells the nuts and the bolts that hold the aircraft together. And you never think of that. And yet that person is as important as the person flying the aircraft outside in their display. And it's easy to be distracted and not appreciate that you could be more important as the bolt cutter, so to speak, or maker, should I say, than the pilot. So, yeah, and I think there's a multitude. And I think that's something, again, that we need to help raise awareness about, is this is more than just the drone. Just like, as you've said, the drone is important for the data is more important than the drone in many ways. The data we're collecting and how we're interpreting and creating something from that. So equally, you don't have to just be a drone pilot. There is a multitude of ways in which you can be involved or use drones in your intended career. So
absolutely.
Important.
We actually took a young woman on a night mission for one of our security operations recently. And she was interested in becoming a drone pilot, etc. Anyway, so we took her along, and it's quite a key project for us. So we were actually on site because we're doing a lot of training with their security team on the ground, etc. Anyway, and a lot of those missions are automated. Okay, so they're waypoint flying, and we do joke sometimes, and we say, you know, our drone crew that work on our security jobs are highly paid battery changers, because you know, and a lot of the time it is like that, and you know, 90% of the time nothing to report, because our visible policing actually kind of works. And so, you know, our success is no crime. So there are no potential criminals or criminals to chase. Anyway, so we had done, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 flights, and you know, it's literally battery change, launch the drone, watch it, you know, do its mission, come back, battery change, drive to the next spot. And eventually she said, why do you need a license for this? Because she was potentially worried about the process of becoming a qualified drone pilot. And so we literally said to her, well, this that you've seen now is the culmination of so much that this has made it easy for us to do. Yes. But if you think about what we've talked about in terms of the ecosystem, you know, we can only do this because the software works. We can only do this because, you know, we're able to pre-program safely, and we've tested this during the day, you know, in this very mountainous area. We can only do this automated mission because of what we've learned, and you will learn that as a drone pilot and also as a pilot in our organization as to how to do that. But it looks easy, right? But there are a lot of players that have contributed towards this pre-programmed automated flight where you change the batteries, you press the button, and you go up. So I hope that was a good example of kind of what we were talking about.
Yes, no, that's a good one. I like that. How do you put that on? What do you do?
I changed batteries. Well, and you know what? The very next mission, there was actually a camera trigger. And, you know, it was one of those quick sticks, but deploy, manually fly. And that's where on night missions and you're manually flying and you're literally spotting a target and you're following this target within safety parameters and within watching battery time and within, you know, making sure that the ground crew, you know, is supported and vectoring in the ground security, you know, and there she was saying, aha, now I know what you mean, you know?
Okay. Yes.
So.
Wow, okay. It must be quite fun when there is suddenly something different from the automated, but yeah, suddenly that's where your training really does kick in.
Yeah.
Did you, I've got a question here. I'm just curious. Have you found any particular challenges for you starting in the industry or not? I mean, your sort of background that you've explained, did you find anything in particular that got in the way and that you really had to work hard to get around or over or under or through or one way or another?
Yeah, good questions. I've been asked this question a number of times. I think for myself, the only hurdles are my own, i.e., you know, when I did my training and you sit there and you do your navigation training or you're learning the lift formula and I'm suddenly going, how am I going to do this? And then the pressure you put on yourself to go, I'm sitting here and I'm the only female in this classroom. I really need to do this because what if I fail this and, you know, all the boys pass and I don't? And so the pressure you put on yourself is key. In terms of the highlight of, you know, that's a barrier. So I worked really hard to make sure that I could get that. And so, and then the flying, and I'm going to generalize, and you may not want to hear this, but, and I've validated this with some interviews that I've done with women in the industry and particularly around the training piece. There is something that says, you know, most of the boys or young men or men that rock up to the flight field trying to learn to fly just have a natural instinct with this eye-hand coordination. And the women generally don't. So what is it just inherently who we are? But the boys potentially play more video games, I don't know. So they are ordinarily, I need to fly very fast. And they're like, don't worry, guys. It's not to see how aggressive you can fly this thing. It's about your maneuvers safely. And the women generally take longer, but they pass and they do well and they're safer and they kind of take longer to do their thing in general. But when I've spoken to you know, various people, they're like, I really want women as part of my drone crew because for some reason they have a safer approach to certain things, and maybe they're more careful, and maybe it's our nurturing kind of, you know, inherent nurturing, you know, careful approach to life. And, you know, the guys are like, let's just get this drone in the air, you know. So I think oftentimes it's our own, you know, now you rock up to the flight field and all these guys are just, they just do their thing and it's a natural thing. And then we're like, I hope I'm good enough. So yeah. I personally haven't had anything that I've seen from an outside perspective that's questioned my ability, that's questioned my place in this industry. It's been me thinking, am I good enough for this? Do I naturally have this or what have you? I think historically, I mean, I did this presentation the other day and it was completely, you know, not drone related. And we were specifically talking, you know, to women and entrepreneurs, you know, and I was talking about, you know, making sure that you are good at what you do. So if you're going to be a drone pilot, get your arms around it and be great. Because your place at this table will not be questioned if you're good at your job.
Yes.
Don't want a job because you're a woman, you know, have this job because you're good at it, because you've chosen it or you've been chosen to do it, and get your arms around it. And so, you know, for me, I quite love it. I mean, I'll walk into, you know, any room and, you know, I'm there because I know my stuff, but I don't punch above my weight. I mean, we do all a little bit, right? And that's good. You know, Richard Branson says, say yes and figure it out later.
Yes.
Right? But, you know, I'm not going to pretend I know about aerofoils or airflow or thrust vectoring, because I don't. But I'll learn about it from the perspective of, I will talk about it to my level of where I need to know about it. And I'm not going to pretend to know more than I know. But the job that I have and the job I want to do, I will do extremely well, so that when people seek me out for that, or when I'm performing my job, I'm the best at it and I can do it,
Yes.
you know, equally to. So I think the point is, we often have this imposter syndrome that we live with. And, you know, we need to overcome that. And so I surround myself with people who I can ask questions, you know, bounce ideas off of and learn from. So, you know, that old adage that said, surround yourself with people who are cleverer than you, every day. So I haven't, to answer your question, I really personally haven't. And I would say that it's just around, you know, make sure you know your stuff.
Yes.
That you need to know.
Yeah. And find people to help.
Has that answered your question, Louise?
No, it has. Yeah, I'm just curious. You know, what challenges some people are having encountered, and I suspect some people will have the same, and some people might have extra, as you say, outside challenges as opposed to on top of the internal ones. So yeah, no, I think it's interesting because it's easy. You know, the sort of hype, well, not hype, the marketing for drones, where you take it out of the box and you fly it, and it gives the impression that everything about the industry is easy. And I think it's important to add a bit of reality and said, well, is there something that challenged you and or challenged women or challenged anybody? And you'll find it can be something like that, am I good enough? You know, because so many times I've said to women or girls, come and fly. Oh, no, I'm not technically minded. And that's it. I won't do it. And that seems sad, that, as you say, there's an internal point, no, I'm not good enough for this. And that seems a shame without even trying.
I think, and again, that conference that I spoke at, that I mentioned, that specifically spoke to women entrepreneurs, was that thing that said, but. And I'd interviewed a number of women in the industry beforehand, because I wanted to get an indication really from them, because like you quite rightly said, my experience might not be someone else's experience. And remember, I've had a career. So I've had a career, and then I changed careers. So, and I'm very lucky that I've got a second career passion. I mean, that I'm very fortunate, because many people never find a career passion, and some people have one career passion and then, you know, can't find a second or what have you. So I'm very lucky. But when we speak to some of these young women, they haven't got a career yet. They've just started out, or they are wanting to start out. So how do you even start out in an industry that's not as structured as, for example, I don't know, actuarial science or banking or, you know, law, where if you study law, you know the path. Okay, and then you can maybe specialize or what have you, but you know the path.
Yes.
Whereas this industry, you know, is there a path we've already established? I mean, there are various roles that have nothing to do with each other, except that they feed into an ecosystem. So and I know this is not the solution, but what I got out of all of those interviews, and some of those women that I interviewed are older and have, you know, found their career as a second or third career, and some of them have started out as something else and then, you know, kind of fed through the general aviation world. But all of them said they didn't really know what they wanted to do. They did something because that's something to do. But and funny, some of them are actually quite young, and they all mentioned a magazine, flipping through a magazine and seeing a woman in their own likeness doing something cool in the aviation industry.
Excellent.
And looking at that going, in South Africa, we have this way of saying, even me, I can do that. Because, wow, she looks like me, or I look like her, and she's in that role. I never knew. And here's the thing that really shocked me. And having an HR background, it kind of really fascinated me, and I really did a little bit of research into it, more than I already had experienced in my career. But one of them specifically said, I always dreamt of flying, somehow, flying, manned, whatever. But I always thought that you had to be problem solving, assertive, strong-willed. And I always thought men do that stuff. Men have those behavioral traits. And of course, I had to just hold myself back. And so she never pursued it until she saw this woman in her own likeness going, wow, even me, I can do that. But I thought, aha, and then pursued it, and look at her now. Another one, same thing, didn't know what she wanted to do, flicked through it. There's a commercial helicopter pilot, female, does bush flying. Oh, it speaks to everything that is cool about, and obviously it's an image, right, that they see. So here's my point to these young women coming into the industry. You were inspired by someone. You need to now inspire the generation coming up behind you.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where you are doing the most amazing job now at highlighting, and us as an industry need to do more of that, is to celebrate and highlight some of these women doing what they're doing, so that the younger generation can see more of these women and say, even me, I can do that. I want to do that. Wow. I grew up watching my granddad fix cars, but now I see this girl or woman fixing drones. I know how to work a screwdriver or a hammer or a drill or a little thing. I want to do that. That's cool. And I think it's pictures. I don't think it's just, the odd little highlight in some feature that never gets shown on social media, because, that's where these young girls would essentially see this kind of thing. So I think we all have a responsibility. And I mean, you're doing a great job at that. So we just need to do more of it, I guess.
No, well, thank you. But that's the whole thing behind Women and Drones, which was started in America by Sharon Rosmark. And I think that's really important. We've got to bring the new generation through, and to see that there's a potential here for them. And, that's really important. I think that's what I like about Women and Drones, is it's supporting girls and women in the industry. And I think that's fantastic. I think, which kind of leads on to the next thing. I mean, this is why I wanted to have a Women and Drones in Africa. What do you think about the drone scene, if I can put it that way, for women in Africa in particular? Is there something that you see that stands out?
Absolutely. So, full disclosure, I haven't, done much work personally in Africa, so I don't have deep-seated experience there. But I do see, and I have heard from, some of the countries doing some really good stuff, and women seem to be at the forefront of that. And I think that, we see some of the flying labs being introduced into African countries, and there's some that we know of, or at least one in particular, that is now led by a woman. And I think that in Africa in particular, and I will not profess to know the African culture, and I know that's also, you know, generalizing that is very wrong, but you know, we know that the African woman in general is an entrepreneur. They have an entrepreneurial, you know, kind of strength. And so I think, you know, a lot of the engineers or the business people see an opportunity, and a lot of times that's led by humanitarian efforts. And I think that's where, you know, the likes of We Robotics or Flying Lab come in. And so I think maybe culturally there might be a challenge sometimes, but we're seeing more and more women coming up, and I think women in Africa, you know, solve problems. They are seen as the key connectors in communities, and I think that's where we're probably seeing the benefits. And so I think it's just the beginning of it, really, and I hope to see more. I can't really add more to that other than what I've seen. Yes. But I know there's been some humanitarian work that's done, which is very key for some of the countries, and they are being led by women, and I think that's just a fantastic example for other countries to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now I kind of get the feeling there's a real, I think you said it earlier, there seems to be like we're on the edge of something. And it seems like there's an extra energy going on at the moment in Africa, and certainly with women's involvement. And it's a good time, I think. You know, this industry is starting to open up. More countries are getting regulations. You know, the African Drone Forum with their various academies, as you say, the flying labs. There's all sorts, and you know, yeah, other flying labs all over the country, the continent, and generating this interest. And so I kind of get the feeling that there's something happening, and we're just on the edge of it becoming really very exciting, especially for women and girls. I think really for the last question, which I got here, is is there any particular piece of advice that you would offer someone who is just looking in and thinking, is this something I can do? You know, why should I get involved in this? What can I get out of it? What sort of piece of advice would you offer someone to make them take, well, not make, but inspire them to take that step?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And I often, you know, giving advice is a tricky one, because, you know, you often have young groups of women or girls, and, you know, they kind of, you know, hang on every word you say. And I'm like, you know, am I really qualified to give advice? But let me start with one thing, to say, any industry, any country, you know, as a human being wanting to step into a field, or step into a career, or start a working career, or change careers, learn about the industry. Get your arms around it. That's my kind of way of describing, and it really, I think, is a literal thing. Get your arms around it, and really try and understand. Ask questions, seek people out, connect with people, read, educate yourself. Get in the midst of it, join forums. You know, there is a lot of free stuff going on. And in our South African context, and I can only speak for South Africa in this piece, there are a lot of incubators, there are a lot of platforms that are doing things for free. In fact, I know there's one, and I can probably, when this gets published, give you the link, but there is a specific incubator that focuses on young entrepreneurs who don't have access to data, that don't necessarily know how to use social media to advertise themselves. And they do this for free. And in fact, Facebook sponsors Facebook business advertising, you know, from an actual, you know, promotion perspective or what have you. There are lots of these platforms. And I'm not saying it's easy, but learn what there is to learn about the industry, because, you know, getting a hand up or, you know, starting out, yes, of course, you're going to start on a base and you have to gain your own knowledge, or gather your own information and grow, but learn about the industry. And just because it's a cool industry doesn't mean that someone's going to give you a handout and then you're done, you know. So in the first instance, learn about it. Okay. Secondly, surround yourself with people that are going to support you. And so in some of the interviews and some of the conversations I've had with young women in this industry, and this doesn't only go for women, it goes for everybody. It's and you know, from all walks of life and all cultures and what have you. A lot of times the family looks at this and goes, you want to do what? You want to be a drone? You want to fly this toy? No, you're going to go to university, you're going to study, I don't know, commerce or whatever. And that's fine. But if you've got a dream and you want to do something, and the people you surround yourself with are not supporting that, and of course, you know, your people will know you and they'll give you advice. But if there's a cultural or some form of other influence that does not support you, my advice has been seek a circle of influencers in your life that will support you. And, you know, with social media these days, it's so much more easy to do. And again, nothing comes easily. But, and so that second point is around seek people who are going to feed you, you know. And I think thirdly, out of this, you know, move to, you know, be surrounding yourself with people who are going to fly your flag, find a mentor, find someone who can get to know you and maybe introduce you to the right people. And we all know that it's really hard breaking into an industry or breaking into something new where you have no. So find a mentor, find someone who will allow you to ask questions or will introduce you into a group or to someone or help do something for you. You know, there are a lot of people that are willing to help. And so make an effort on all those three fronts, because sitting back waiting for opportunities isn't going to help the cause, even if you're a female or even if you're a young person, you know, who hasn't had the right background or what have you. And yeah, I hope, I mean, it's not really tangible, Louise, but I think a lot of it is, you know, be hungry, be agile, be, you know, kind of hungry for information and hungry for leads and hungry for connections. And anyone who ever reaches out to me, who does it in a way that says, I really want to be connected with you, tell me something, or if they ask me a specific question, I will always make an effort to try and help them. And I can't always solve everything for everybody, and none of us can, but as an industry together, if we all, you know, try and do that with young people coming in, I think we'll forge ahead. So I hope that's helpful. I know it's not as tangible, but you know, those are kind of what helped me in my kind of career, and I do believe that fundamentally human nature is good, and people will help. And if you make an effort and you ask questions, and you know, people can always say no, but they might say yes, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, I love your expression of wrapping your arms around it. I think that's a great, that's a lovely visual sort of thing. But no, I agree entirely, and I hope over time the Women and Drones Africa chapter will provide some of that support and provide some of those connections, and possibly even connect people with mentors that, you know, makes it easier for them to find these people to help give, you know, give them that support and just help them get on to the next step, or talk to people who've had the same troubles they've had, or need some guidance from, or what to do in night flying, or something like that. So yeah, I hope that's the sort of aim, that it would be nice that we create a community of people that are willing to help each other and raise awareness and inspire others to get involved. So no, perfect what you said. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so super excited about what you're doing with Women and Drones for this continent. I'll give you my support, I already said. And again, I know of many individuals in fact, in the South African context, but I know we also have a friend in common in Zimbabwe, for example, who are all willing to help you to drive what you're trying to do here with Women and Drones. So, good luck with that. And we're right behind you. It's super exciting, Louise.
Well, thank you. Yes, I'm excited too, because I think there's some amazing women on this continent that are just doing incredible things, and it's only just the tip of the iceberg. I think we've got so much more to do in this industry, and it's great. It's wonderful to see it. So yeah, cool.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I think we better stop there. But of course, we'll always be available for further discussions with anybody if they're interested. I will. Are you happy to, if I can share your contact detail for others if they want to get hold of you?
Absolutely. You know where I am on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest business platform.
Okay.
And our websites or what have you. But LinkedIn is perfect, and you're welcome to share that, Louise.
All right. Okay. I'll add that with this Zoom chat. But thank you very much for your time, Kim. Fantastic, brilliant answers to all those questions I gave you. I think I might have caught you out with a couple that I hadn't given you warning of. But no, thank you very much. I think what you had to say is really important for our community, and the drone community, and also for women and girls that are interested as well. So thank you for your time.
It's been an absolute pleasure as always, Louise. And anything I can do to help, I'd always be available.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Okay. It's a pleasure.